Hello, welcome. This is Erica Glessing. Oh my gosh, we have the most amazing show for you today. You will love my guest. He is a dream maker. He woke up one morning, I don't know what happened, and he became a screenwriter. He's going to talk about his dreams, his life, and his football. So you're going to love this guest. But my happiness quotations today is on having faith and believing and having a leap of faith. And I know this isn't always easy, so I'm not taking this for granted. Some days my belief squishes down into a little tiny corner of self-pity, and I focus on everything that I don't have. So I wanted to just share with you that some days you can wake up and believe again and have miracles be in your life again, and you can believe fresh. So today, my happiness quotation is called Taking the Leap of Faith, Believe, and you can find it more at happinessquotations.com. And this is my quotation. I believe, and some days I believe bigger than other days. Some days my beliefs squish down into a tiny corner of self-pity. Today, I believe again fresh. I have faith in the miracle of you. I have faith in the miracle of life, and as I stand with you in the light, I celebrate the very core being that unites all of us into the miracle of life. So that's my happiness quotations, and please enjoy today's interview. He is so inspirational. Thank you. So hello, welcome. I am so glad to have you here today on the show. I have an amazing guest today. Just getting to know him before has just been such a treat, and I know you're going to enjoy him. He's involved in movies, and he's written 1 million books at least. He's an inner city teacher in his spare time. And wow, one of his books is called How Young Men Become Good Men, or at least that's the subtitle. So I'd like to welcome you and welcome Daniel Blanchard. How are you, Daniel?
I'm wonderful, Erica. Thank you for having me on the show. And that book you're referring to is called The Storm: How Young Men Become Good Men. And that definitely is one of my focuses, is on helping our struggling young men grow up to be good men.
Wow.
I know I struggled with it. I definitely needed a lot of help when I was young to try to grow up to be a good man. And, I got tripped up in a lot of different places. Eventually I found my way and became a good man. But if I could help our youth get there quicker than I did, then I'd consider that a victory.
I just have to jump right into something that I'm just so passionate about, because I love when stories happen through sports. So I love the underdog stories. I love the stories that you have some stories about wrestling, but why don't we talk about what I love to talk about, since I get to?
Yes.
What inspires you to work on a football book and a football movie, like being an underdog? Like what got you inspired in that story?
Well, I got to tell you, Erica, sports is where I got my start. I was like your huge underdog, 54 pounds soaking wet, trying to play football. Always the shortest kid on the team. I was always the runt of the litter.
Oh my gosh, right. I was just thinking about bogies when you said that.
Yeah, I was always the underdog going through sports, but I built myself up through a lot of hard work in sports. Sports gave me a lot of fond memories, a lot of great opportunities to build skills, build friendships, and build confidence in myself. And that's where it first started. I mean, I've always loved sports, and I've had to travel many, many miles since those days. And being an educator, an adult, a parent, a father of 5, and just all the other things I do, which are almost too much to name right now. But I still go back to sports. I still love sports. So this is a great story. About a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, I had thoughts in my head of having a 30th reunion of that 1988 East Hartford, Connecticut high school football team that pulled off one of the biggest upsets in Connecticut football history by coming from down from being a 20-point underdog to beat an unbeatable team and win the state title.
Oh my
And that,
gosh.
yes, and that story, which is an amazing story, of boys have come into age together through sports, has never really been told.
Isn't that
So,
fascinating? I just want to encourage the listener, if you've happened upon an amazing story, let it influence you, let it inspire you. And just look at what Daniel did. He just took this story, and now tell me a little bit about what's happening with that. You've got what, a movie being built and a
yeah, I mean,
book?
it was crazy how it all happened. I mean, I just wanted to get the guys back together. I missed them, you know? But there I was, walking side by side with Bobby Stefanik, who was athlete of the decade back in those years. He kicked the winning field goal. And we're walking by this fence, and this old man's there. Looked like he'd been there for about 100 years, hadn't moved. And he said, "Hey, are you Bobby Stefanik?"
Oh,
Turned and looked at him and said, "Wow, all these years later, 30 something years later," the guy goes, "I saw you kick a field goal." And I was just like, "Wow." Bobby was like, "Wow." We couldn't believe it. And then in my head, I said, "Oh my gosh, that would be a great opening scene for a movie. It would be a great way for a movie to open and for a movie to close." So as I'm sitting there enjoying the 30-year celebration of that championship team, I get this whole thing running around in my head saying that I should make a movie out of this. And I just happened to be, at the time, and still am, the Connecticut president of the Association of Publishers for Special Sales, which is publishers and authors, and we have screenwriters in there. So I know screenwriters. So I call up a screenwriter who played on a championship Florida high school football team back like in the 60s. And I
wow.
pitched him the idea.
Yeah.
And he says, "I love it.
Yeah.
A movie on this team of a bunch of young boys coming of age
Right.
together and winning
Right.
a state championship against all odds."
Right. And
He
now,
loved it,
now
and he started writing the screenplay.
when you're writing a book on a story that's real, what kinds of things go into that? Like, you've got a story that's actually real, so it's not like fiction, right? And it's not
Yes.
even really the same as like a nonfiction motivational book where it's kind of coming from your teachings or your education. What kinds of things go into creating a book like this?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Erica, because I got to tell you, as my screenwriter was writing a screenplay, and I'm like, chances of screenplays being picked up are so slim. And I'm like, in the movie or the screenplay, it will not fully tell the story. What will fully tell the story is a book. And I'm like,
Exactly,
"Well,
right?
what I need to do is I need to go back to the beginning." So I tracked down Bobby Stefanik, who was the athlete of the decade who kicked that winning field goal. And he was like Mr. East Hartford, everything. He was he broke college football records, got drafted, he was
Yeah.
an all-state swimmer. He got drafted to play pro baseball. So I tracked him down and said, "Tell me your story starting from the beginning of when your mom didn't want you to play football." And that started
Wow.
in 1978.
Wow. Perfect.
And I carried that story through over a dozen years, or at least a decade,
Wow.
documenting those years. And I've done, I don't know how many interviews I've done of people that have played on those teams, people that have
Right.
sat in the stands, people who are cheerleaders, drill team. I just met my old coach, Jim Dakin, passed away, and I didn't even know who his kids were. They reached out to me from Boston, invited me up for dinner, and we sat there and talked football all night. And now I got a bunch of
Wow.
more
That's
stories
amazing.
to put in the book.
I want to bring you back to your day to day, which is helping young inner city kids in Connecticut. Tell me how you bring in kind of this ethereal connectivity, like with major motion pictures and, books that are going crazy like wildfire. I know this one isn't out yet, but it will be later this year. And how do you connect that in with your kind of like helping kids on a day to day basis?
Well, you got to live by example. I mean, kids, you got to build relationships with them and live and make that example for them so that they're excited about who you are as a person and what your message is. And then they're going to be more receptive to your message. And I'm a special education teacher who teaches social studies, history classes. So I got a great topic, great content where I can weave in stories of courage and stories of inspiration and
Wow.
stories of underdog women and stories
Love
of
it.
perseverance where somebody just outworked somebody else to like change the history books,
Wow.
change the history, the arc of
Oh,
history in the United States and the world. And I
wow.
inspire the kids and I lead by example. So I think I have a great subject to teach. And I'm sure most teachers out there can somehow do the same. They can make their subjects great
Yeah.
stories to teach. But you got to remember, my philosophy is history is never really about the dates and facts. History is about the his story and her story. And that's what connects the human story.
Yeah, I love it.
That's
Gosh.
what connects with
Yeah,
you.
no, I swear to gosh, I could interview you for like 8 hours, but since my show's kind of shorter than that, we're about wrapped up. Why don't you tell us how we can find you? Tell us how we can find all those beautiful books.
Yeah. Okay, they can find me all over the place. All you got to do is Google Dan Blanchard, speaker, author, whatever. You'll see me everywhere. Go to danblanchard.net, granddaddysecrets.com. If you want to visit my webpage, I'm all over the social medias, all of them, the YouTube, everything. Go to Amazon, look up Dan Blanchard, The Storm, How Young Men Become Good Men. If you like leadership stuff, if you like academic stuff, go to Daniel Blanchard, look up my book I just released this weekend called How to Become More Successful with Difficult Students. And I've got a whole bunch of other books on Amazon that you'll bump into. I'm
Love
all over
it.
the place. I'm easy to find. Zip me an email. I will respond. I will return your email. Love building relationships with my fellow people out there.
Great. Thanks for coming.
And thank you, Erica, for having me on the show.